Hello everyone, Hachadino over here, and as you always know, we have a cool sheet that you can always check in the description. It has everything that you might need, guides, both thingies, cool pictures with super cool editing that you can see. And as always, I'm going to begin the video talking about what we want to say. So I did a short video about the changes that we got and explained a little bit why we are somewhat sad, somewhat annoyed, and you might think, why are Soblety mains, let's say, players, we are not many, we are not a great deal of players. For most of the time, there have been less than 1000 parses. In Mythic, Heroic is a little bit different. And in Mythic Plus, you can't even see the line if you try to filter from 15 plus. I don't do high keys. I do know people that do high keys. Of course, as you might expect, playing Solidity is a struggle on those. Not because it does not perform, because when they can actually play the game, they do quite decently, but because Assassination is just a spec that does more overall damage and also has Iron Wire and other things that it's really good. But let's not talk about Assassination in this thing. We are going to talk about Deathstalker and the buffs it got. So let's say that you have a spec that is Solidity and you can choose between Trickster and Deathstalker. Right now we play Trickster in all content except PvP, and that means that even if Deathstalker seems a little bit more, there's a game breaking, well, let's say not game breaking, super annoying and actually quite affecting performance. That makes it so we do around 3% less damage because of a bug with Darkest Night and that Stalker Mark. I already explained it on the other video. If you want, you can watch it. It's nothing crazy. You just can't pop marks while you have Darkest Night. And as ability, as you might expect, we use Shadow Strike and get our 3 marks. If we popped that Darkest Night, it will be go to 2, making it easier to pop it afterwards. So we lose a lot of damage on that. And we also can't use Secret Technique if it comes off cooldown. We have to use Eviscerate if we have Darkest Night, that's also a damage loss. So it ends up being that 3%. Now, what they are doing is they are making it so all of the plague damage is increased by 45%. It is a big buff. Around 5 to 6% possible damage. And then the flat buff to Black Powder again makes it so as Deathstalker, you use Black Powder in 2 targets. And as Trickster, the target before was depending on how many Find Weakness you had. It could go from 8 all the way to 12 plus, but now it may go a little bit lower. It doesn't matter, of course, that much at all, because we are likely going to keep playing Trickster unless we play with a coordinated group or do big pulls where actually Deathstalker Black Powder, because it's on, let's say, uncapped, it just has not a cap, but it gets the damage reduced, but it does more damage. So you might expect to see some clips or some people playing solo team like at the beginning of Stonebolt or Necrotic Wake and do more than 20 million damage. That will be cool to see. But the gameplay itself is very, very annoying because of Darkest Night. You are going to need to do one Eviscerate with full combo points, something that is one of the most annoying things, into a single target. The target that has your mark, too, remember. Well, any target, really, because when you have Darkest Night, you don't have a mark. But as ability, you do get a mark when you Shadow Strike. So this makes it so, for example, if you Shadow Strike and get to 6 combo points, you have to Shadow Strike again, or to Shuriken Storm again. Same thing in AoE, if there are 4 or 5 mobs. In the case of Deathstalker, you do want to get to 5 combo points, so if you get to 4, you would still use a builder to get extra combo points and finish. But if, for example, you get to 5, usually would finish there, but because of Darkest Night, you have to get to 7. it does do a lot of damage, and you can get that funnel thing, let's say. But when you are actually playing the spec, it's very annoying. And in single target, you are also going to be very annoyed. This makes it so people actually playing the spec don't really want to do it. Trickster also has its problems, of course. Coup de Grace sometimes kills you because it has a charge. But more or less, people were, let's say, happy with the gameplay. We weren't super outstanding in the single target department. As you might expect, you have seen many classes that do more damage. That's subletting. But we were still doing like kind of fine. We didn't play Deathstalker because it was bugged. Now it's still being bugged. We do not know if they are going to fix the bugs though. One very important thing, I'm publishing this video before the reset, so I do not know if they have fixed the Dark Snake bug. But they are going to increase the plague damage on singular focus, hand them down, clear the witness, fatal intent, corrupt the blood, everything like this, and Mark, of course, are going to get their plague damage increased. It's going to make us very strong in PvP, like to get nerfed again, who knows. And for single target, we are going to kind of play Deathstalker in some encounters, likely Sikran, Princess, and maybe Ansurek, depending on how the cliff situation is going. Not 100% sure. I will still play Trickster because I kind of got used to it. But I will do videos about Mythic Plus and AoE with Trickster because some people may want to play the hero talent that performs best. And now you might have seen the post on Reddit where some of us, I was even there twice. I saw myself. You can see my photo doing this. But being younger, of course. And we're just sad and annoyed because this is like a band-aid. The same thing happened in other expansions where they just changed numbers. Same things they did with Deathstalker. Deathstalker was super behind Trickster, and they just kept doubling, tripling, doubling, tripling, and finally, of course, it was better in single target until they did some fixes and then they bugged it. They also deleted Dust, so Trickster went up being again, but now they just put another bandit on it. And now, when we have the next tier, we are not likely to get any changes to the problems that Solidity has. Now, this is, I'm going on a tangent, and if you were only going to know about that, it's not that important, but Solidity has a lot of talents that are not really impactful. Like going from a full AoE, let's say, situation that we have here, right now, to single target, you can get shadow focus. That's 0.2, 0.1, maybe 0.3%. Replicating shadows being something that buffs rupture by 20% is actually competitive with our other options, being Gloomblade, improved shadow techniques, the first dance, and weapon master. Every of these like 4 or 5 talents are kind of almost the same DPS. First dance being a little bit stronger the shorter the encounter is. But let's just make it so it's a 4 to 6 minute, like when you do a 5-minute sims. And then those are the ones that I kind of close, let's say. Then you have completely useless talents. These two here are useless. And Swift Death would also be useless if it was not as strong as it is. Because we need to get at as many symbols of death as possible because our combo generation kind of sucks without it because of Shadowcraft. If you don't have Shadowcraft going on with your symbols of death, your combo generation is super bad. Now you also have Perforated Veins and Lingering Shadows that are just completely, utterly, let's say, not useless, but just bad. And also not in the thing of the spec that we actually want to use finishers. Now, Goremus Bite, it's maybe not that bad now. After all the changes, things there's a possibility to play it, mostly because you may play something like this in single target, and finality it's also not a super strong point, so you may take one of finality and put it on Gormal, but we still have to do some things. So, and we have those problems going in, and there's also the problem with Tornado that is just annoying to use. It clashes with Shadowcraft, and it also clashes with Rotten because it wastes your stacks. There's a bug with Hurricane Storm where it consumes the 2 stacks and only crits once, so it doesn't do much. And that is the thing with Subtlety. Also, of course, as you might expect, Assassination and Outlaw got some use of Subterfuge, but Sub has nothing. You can use Shadow Strike or Chip Shot, of course, force those 3 seconds. And then combat benefits require the stress persist. What combat benefit does Subtlety has? 0. Now, without a trace, also almost not much power from us, because the only thing that we get right now is premeditation. Now, Cold Blood without dust is not as strong as before, so Cold Blood and Tea are almost the same thing, kind of. The only strong thing about Sub right now is that we can use Supercharged and Forced Induction quite well, because we can have 3 charges of symbols, so we can play a little bit with that. But apart from that, Subtlety has a lot of useless talents, at the direction of our capstones is kind of shoehorned into Dance Macabre Shadowcraft, and we are using Rotten just because it's better than Finality and Dark Brew and Gormal, not because it's a great talent. Same thing with the second point of Dead Perception. It's not a super great talent, it's just a little bit better than the other ones that are not that good. So that is my rant. That is why we are sad. This has been long, not super long than other videos, but we just got a band-aid and likely to get any changes of any on our talents, and likely to get more changes in the next season. But maybe we get a surprise from Blizzard, and then our tier set can do many things. If they do the same thing as the last expansion, making something that is unpopular be more popular, we do not know if they're going to go into the symbols rotten thing again, or maybe something with rupture or whatever they want. I wish that we get some cool things with dance, but a man can dream, but a man can also sleep. I will see you on the next video.